You're insignificant to me now. Don't ever come back to this house. My father yelled at me, but John, my soon-to-be spouse, supported me. I departed from my family home in tears right after finishing high school. I'm Amy, a 36-year-old farmer. It's been 18 years since I left my family home. The time I'll spend living my chosen life from now on will exceed the time I spent in my family home. And this idea makes me quite emotional. My family home was located in a city. My father was a corporate employee, and my mother was a stay-at-home mother. We were a family of 4, including my brother who is a year older than me. My parents were the type of individuals who clearly favored their children, so my brother, as the heir, always received preferential treatment. The quality of our meals and the extravagance of our birthday gifts were always better for my brother. He boasted about his superiority and consistently belittled me. There were moments when I felt isolated and times when I cried out for attention. But my parents never changed, so I gave up entirely. The incident that transformed my life occurred in the summer of my second year of high school. My brother was preparing for a college entrance exam, aiming for a top-tier university. His practice exam results were very poor, so he was always on edge, taking out his frustration on me at every opportunity. My parents, as if handling a delicate object, treated my brother with the utmost care and gave me domestic tasks that prevented me from finding time to study. Since I was excelling academically compared to my sibling, they attempted to decrease my grades to uplift his spirits. It didn't seem rational. During that period, a teacher at my high school informed me about a rural immersion program. Students had the option to take part in a 2-night, 3-day rural experience program. Participants resided at a host farm, harvested vegetables, cooked together, and encountered country life. Despite objections from my family, I decided to courageously participate due to my troubled family environment. My father opposed, stating that agriculture is only pursued by individuals who are unable to secure corporate employment. My mother ridiculed me, questioning my willingness to engage in manual labor and get dirty in the mud. Nevertheless, I challenged my parents' resistance and utilized my saved pocket money to enroll. This marked the first instance where I refused to comply with my parents' wishes, and it proved to be an excellent decision. For me, who yearned for familial affection, it was truly a marvelous experience. Working in the fresh rural air was revitalizing, and I was able to encounter the warmth of a family. The eldest son of that family, John, was a year older than me and the same age as my brother. Initially, I was somewhat cautious simply because he was an older individual, but John was entirely different from my brother. He was kind yet resolute, had a good relationship with his parents, and treated me kindly as well. John's the gentle parents, though only for 3 days, caused me to shed many tears when I had to depart from the farm. John's mother wept alongside me, expressing, "You're welcome back anytime." I pledged to return. They mentioned they didn't use their cell phones much, so I sent them letters regularly. Soon, I began receiving more responses from John, and it evolved into a mutual diary exchange. We commenced a relationship. It was a genuine long-distance connection devoid of even a kiss. After my brother failed to gain admission to his preferred university and wound up at a lesser private college, I became a college applicant. However, my parents urged me to seek employment instead of pursuing higher education. They cited that women did not require an education, but the actual reason was likely that they did not want me to attend a superior college compared to my brother. Following the rural experience, I aspired to become a farmer. While I could pursue farming without attending college, John was a college student who had relocated to the city. Therefore, I decided to attend college and strive for a novel form of agriculture. With a distinct objective and intention, I diligently studied every day, despite interference from my parents and brother. Nevertheless, when I passed the university entrance examination, my father was livid, remarking, "Are you a female intending to attend a superior university to your brother?" My mother also stated, "We do not have funds to allocate to you. Your brother requires financial support, so you should work and contribute. Finance is residence." I felt devastated by my parents' remarks, and after a significant argument, I ended up severing all connections with them. John arrived to collect me from my house, and his parents, now my relatives by marriage, funded my university expenses, and I ended up enrolling in college. 4 years later, I tied the knot with John. I did not reach out to my parents or sibling during my university years, but when my in-laws mentioned, we need to at least inform them about the wedding, we visited my childhood residence for the first time in 4 years. Immediately after graduating, things were hectic, and it was also the planting season, so we were unable to make the visit until the beginning of summer. My in-laws, my spouse, and I all had sunburned, tanned faces from working outdoors, but my parents and sibling openly mocked us. My mother inquired, "No disrespect, but how old are you exactly? You must be quite destitute to be toiling until you're all tanned like this." I was embarrassed. "Please desist, Mom," I pleaded in a soft voice, but she disregarded me. My sibling grinned and remarked, "Clever individuals like me earn money through intellectual labor. If you can only perform basic labor, it's evidence that you're unintelligent." I turned pale, and the kind smiles on my in-laws' faces froze. My husband firmly stated, "With all respect, we take pride in being farmers." My father laughed patronizingly and said to me, "Just to clarify, you're a stranger to us. From now on, you're marrying a humble farmer who has to perspire and labor. We're going to disregard you completely. It could pose an issue if you approach us for funds. We are not interested in seeing you again." Having been rejected at 18, I knew very well that I was on my own, even without being explicitly told so again. Nevertheless, I had attempted to maintain the courtesies. The sympathetic looks from my in-laws and John were hard to bear. On the way home, I silently wept and resolved to put my biological family out of my mind. Time passed, and before I realized it, 18 years had gone by. The emotional wounds had completely healed. I had given birth to 2 children, and my days were busy but satisfying. Even though I had nearly erased the memories of my parents and my brother, I was informed by a cousin that my brother was getting married. My cousin and I have always been close, and we occasionally stayed in touch even after my marriage. At some point, I had sent them rice harvested from our farm, and they were pleased with the taste, even becoming regular buyers. Therefore, we maintained a relationship and enjoyed chatting on the phone about once a month. "We can reunite at the wedding after a long time," my cousin said. But I had not heard anything about the marriage from my parents or my brother. "Well, since we're estranged, it's true that there's no way for me to know," I replied. "I heard they are building a new duplex. I wonder if it's completed," my cousin continued. "Apparently, both my parents and my brother, along with his wife, plan to move after the wedding." My cousin knew about the estrangement between my parents and myself, but they appeared to believe that I would participate in weddings and funerals. After concluding the phone call with my relative, on a whim, I dialed my mother's cellular phone number. However, I was greeted with an automated message stating, "This number is no longer in service." I attempted to call my father next, and once again received the same automated message. Had they altered their cellular phone numbers? I did not possess my brother's number, so I was unable to call him. With shaking fingers, I dialed the landline for my family residence, and it connected. My heart raced as I waited for someone to answer. "Hello," it was my sibling who responded. "Sibling, it's Amy. I heard you're getting married and relocating." I hesitated over what to say next, about to offer congratulations when I was interrupted by my sibling. "There's no need for you to do anything. You, a farmer, are a stranger to me. Don't call me," my sibling yelled and hung up the phone. I hurried to call him back, only to discover that I was already blocked. This was harsh. Regardless of how much he detested me, we were still family. It hurt to be rejected like this. Witnessing my distress, my spouse was concerned and gently inquired, "What's wrong? Does something happen?" I couldn't contain my tears any longer when I informed him about the conversation. Both my spouse and my in-laws were as furious as if it had occurred to them. "Your home is here, Amy. Your family is us here," my mother-in-law reassured me. Her words moved me to tears. I wished she was my actual mother. She cared about I much more than my blood-related mother did. My father-in-law also consoled me, saying, "You are happy now. That's all that matters. No need to get hurt. The one who laughs is the winner. My husband added, "Let's take them as a bad example and make sure we don't turn out like that." Even our children, not knowing the situation, embraced me tightly. Thank you, everyone. I felt warmth in my heart, realizing how happy I was now, even though I was blessed with a supportive biological family. However, things took a drastic turn when my business was featured on national television. My in-laws were originally large-scale grain farmers in the American Midwest. They also grew a wide variety of vegetables and fruits, but a lot of produce didn't meet the standards. I had studied the food business in college and spent a lot of time figuring out how to sell all the produce without waste. I started an online business selling jams, juices, and pickles made from slightly damaged fruits and vegetables that couldn't be sold as they were. Supported by the local farmers union, my business was a huge success. It was a hit with moms who wanted to feed their children safe domestically produced food and seniors who wanted to taste nostalgic homemade pickles. I developed the company with young women who, like me, had married into farming families and unemployed young people. It had grown into a $5 million business. Our success story was covered in an in-depth report. After the TV broadcast, we received a great deal of attention, phone calls, and inquiries. There were requests for business deals and interview invitations. Both the company's phone and my personal smartphone wouldn't stop ringing. So when a call came in from an unfamiliar number, I answered it without hesitation. To my surprise, it was my sibling. I assumed he had also seen the national television coverage. He must have learned about my achievement. With only a brief exchange of greetings, he said, "I'm considering launching a business. Could you provide me with some financial assistance?" I firmly declined his request and calmly expressed a stronger version of my refusal before ending the call. Shortly after, he called again. "Stop arguing and lend me the money. If someone like you can establish a business and earn money, I am certain to be successful," my brother persistently shouted. I pondered where he found such confidence, as that is not how someone seeking a loan should act. It was ironic because it was my brother who once claimed that I, a simple farmer, was entirely unknown to him. Instead of responding to my brother, I brought up something that had been on my mind for a while. Hey, who decided not to inform me about the relocation? It was definitely me, my wife. You see, she's a city girl. The moment I'd mentioned you, she suggested that we should sever ties. Realizing the situation, I chose not to hear more, so I ended the call and blocked his number. A few minutes later, I received a call from my father. "Why are you in charge? Did you take a man's position?" he demanded. I replied, "Well, both John and my father-in-law is engaged in the agricultural industry, so it's only logical. In actuality, it's referred to as large-scale consolidation, and it has become beneficial to integrate if you're a relatively large farm. My father-in-law holds the position of the president of the local farming association, and John has integrated his in-law share and serves as the president of that company." Perhaps my explanation persuaded him because he then remarked, "You're distant. Why didn't you reach out to us?" I was stunned internally and replied, "It was you who disowned me. I'm ending this conversation now," and I ended the call and blocked his number. A few minutes later, I received a call from my mother. "Why aren't you providing financial support to your brother? You're earning $500 million a year, aren't you? Send money home. We are your true family. Have you forgotten all the favors we've done for you, raising you up? At least give us $300 million, or at least $250 million. My mother was the most forceful of all. Even though the business generates $500 million, that's total revenue. After covering expenses and employee salaries, I hardly have any remaining. I exaggerated slightly, and my mother immediately countered, "You're lying. There's no way that's true." I was getting annoyed. My mother persistently requested money, but I wondered if she wasn't ashamed. "I'm not going to send money, whether I have it or not. We are strangers," I said, then hung up and blocked her number. Naturally, I thought that was the end, but I was mistaken. My parents and my sibling, as well as my sibling's spouse, an unfamiliar person, appeared at my in-laws' residence without an invitation. My father addressed me, asking if I wanted to hear the surprise that he was rescinding the disownement. I was shocked by their desperation for money. My mother-in-law inquired about the situation, while my father-in-law and mother-in-law expressed their discomfort by glaring at my parents in silence. The surrounding employees had gathered and were looking at my parents with astonished expressions. It was clear that my brother was not welcome there either. My brother asserted, "The true family connection is with us. We have the right to claim a share of your earnings." His wife seemed to agree with his statement. I was enraged. Despite our blood relation, there was no emotional connection. I had been treated like a stranger and abandoned. The emotional wounds from being abandoned by my biological family resurfaced, and I was on the brink of tears once again. At that moment, John approached and stood beside me. He defended me, stating that I was now a part of their family and that they were perfectly content even without my parents disowning me. The employees also criticized my parents in unison, telling them to leave. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law glared at us with resentment but could not say anything more and could only retreat. Later, according to a story I heard from my cousin, my brother and parents attempted to become wealthy. Swiftly, they launched a venture with liabilities instead of seeking funds from me. However, their haughty nature resulted in a significant collapse. Presently, they appear to be teetering on the edge of insolvency, but I am now a stranger, and I have no desire to engage further. Regarding myself, my occupation is thriving, and I am encircled by a genuine clan of esteemed relatives, an affectionate spouse, and endearing offspring. I will treasure each day while relishing the joy of existence.